This show contains profanity, advice you should never follow, humor that you might not enjoy. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. Do not try this at home.
Greetings, Yellow Blazers, Blue Blazers, Bill Bryson lovers, Bill Bryson haters, captains.
Or Tennealers.
Or?
Well, they're not Antonil anymore.
Oh. And Dirty 30ers. Be right back. This is our 30th episode.
Holy shit balls.
Now, we've had more than 30 episodes. I think we're nearing 50 at this point, but 40-something. But this is the 30th time we've sat down.
Wow.
The other ones have been like part ones and part twos. Yeah. I mean, we definitely had a part one and part two with the whole Baltimore Jack. Let's see. Some of them have been OPPs, other Pox and Pusses, which people seem to hate. I don't know. Sometimes they love them. This month, they're really loving OPP number 4. I don't know where it came from, but, you know. Hey.
Did we talk about anything specific in that one?
I don't know. I am pretty sure I insulted somebody in an episode around the 4s or 5s.
Was it Ray Jardine?
No. I think I've talked disparagingly about him, but it's never actually aired.
Good.
I don't think.
Then take this shit out.
He'd have to come here from Honduras anyway.
Yeah, what's he gonna do?
Exactly.
It's like hitting a baby.
It's like being attacked by a trekking pole. It's like knocking a candy out of a baby's hand with a bat.
Smushing an ice cream cone into his face and saying, "You will remember me."
This is episode number 30, and there is only one thing I can think of when I think of the number 30. So after I finished hiking the AT, I was in debt, and so I lived with my parents for like 8-9 months, like basically handing my paycheck over to either them or a credit card company,
right? And
saving a little bit along the way, and then around June of 1999, after I'd finished trail, I started looking for a place to live, and outside of my parents' house. And so Barf lived across town, and so when he was doing the same thing, living with his parents, paying them back, paying back credit cards and that kind of thing, and getting out of debt. And so we found this one house, and it was in it's one of those places where if you're out there and you're looking for a place to live, go visit that place at night before you say yes.
That's a really good, that's a
good
piece of
that's
advice.
a life tip right there. And it's free.
Write that down.
Yeah. And you have a piece of paper. And so this place had like this huge fucking lawn. It was fenced in. Barf actually had a dog. And it was fenced in on like 3 sides, but like the most important being a very major road. But we had like 200 feet of front yard. A fucking huge oak tree with a tire swing. And it was in kind of an older section of Raleigh, and it was a duplex. But the guy that lived next door split his time between Virginia and there, and he worked at the vet school, so he was a pretty cool guy. Literally, in the 5 years I lived there, I heard him vacuum one time, and the rest of the time, I never heard him make a fucking peep.
Wow.
Yeah, which makes me think he was listening to us.
Yeah, it's possible.
And then one day, I was dumb and young, and I was going to school at about 20 minutes away. And I had an old Nissan pickup truck with like 215,000 miles on it. And I was working on something that I'd gone to go see the band Ween the night before in Winston-Salem. Drunk as hell. Come home. Wake up the next day. At Ziggy. Yeah, it was at Ziggy's. Yeah. I come back and I'm like, fall asleep, wake up. And it's like, I think I've already missed one class in the morning. You know, I was a stellar. That's 16 years of college. Yeah. And I go out to, and it's like, fuck, something's wrong with the truck, and I can figure out what it is. And so I have a wrench or a screw. I can't remember what the hell I had in my hand, but it falls into the engine as I'm working. I'm like, fuck, you gotta be shitting me. And so all I could do, and it was like out of my reach. So all I could do was like go over and find a stick, and then reach down into my engine.
Get a stick.
You get a stick. It's like a stick, and you get the stick, and then just all I'm trying to do is roll this screwdriver. It's kind of just, I don't know why I'm still doing the gesture, but I'm showing it to you. And I'm like trying to roll this thing just so it falls down onto the ground. And right about the time I've got this fucking stick in the engine, I realize out of the corner of my eye, there's a pickup truck parked like basically like blocking my truck in.
Okay.
And like blocking me in, and there's two guys in the truck, and I'm like, what the fuck? Both of them mustaches, white Chevy, like just plain ass truck. Guys like and like the guy in the passenger seat's just looking at the stick in my hand in the engine, and the guy in the driver's seat's like, hey, you live here? And I was like, the fuck you think? I'm pissed. And I'm like, what the fuck do you think? And he's like, well, I'm looking for a house. And I'm like, okay. Like, he's like, I'm looking for a house with a bunch of ladies in it. And I was like, honestly, this is still to this day, when I hear myself even say this, all I could think of was a room full of women sewing. I don't know why. It was like a bunch, like a house with a bunch of ladies in it. Like, what are they, like old ladies, like sewing? Like what?
Silly fancy ladies? What are you getting
Because then
at?
he said a bunch of ladies working in it. That's what he said. And I was like sewing? Like
a sweatshop?
Like how? Yeah, like what are they doing? Like, and he's like, it's, and I was like, I don't know anything about it, man. I've only lived here for a few months. So I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, dude. And he goes, it's a house with a bunch of ladies working in it. And I was like, oh. I was like, dude, I don't know anything about that. And he's like, it's supposed to be in a brick house down here near the blah, blah, blah road. And I was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, there's a brick house across the street from you, and there's a brick house next door to you. And I was like, well, good point. And I was like, I've met the girl that lives over there. There's only one. And I said, that one, there's these dudes that work for a construction company live over there. And he was like, you sure? And I'm like, dude, yes. I'm like, I'm late for school. I'm working on my truck here. Obviously got a stick. And I'm like, and he's just like, all right. And he pulls off. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't think anything else about it. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I come home, I tell Barf that night when I get back from work. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. So then about 2 weeks later, we're going to a party, and we're still so used to walking everywhere. I mean, we're just walking everywhere. It's like, oh, where is it? Like, where's the party? It's like, oh, it's like a mile and a half that way. We're like, oh, let's just walk. Yeah. And so, again, like I said, the most important fence we had was there's a very busy road at the end of this 200-foot long yard. And so we were like, well, we could walk all the way around the block, or we could just hop this fence at the end here, cross the busy road, which wouldn't be a big deal at all. It's nighttime. And then we're going to cut out like half a mile. I'm like, all right, let's just go that. So we're walking across our front yard, and I hear, and I mean no disrespect, I've been on podcasts with African Americans, so I'm going to try and do a...
I have a black friend?
I have, yeah. Go listen to Two Courts. I have a black friend. And so I'm like, I hear, hey! Like, that's kind of weird. We're still walking across our yard, and I hear, hey! And we're like, we turn and look, and there is this like 6'4" black dude walking towards us in our front yard. And like, why I say check out your house before you, our front yard was pitch black. We could have been murdered in our front yard. Nobody would have ever seen it, even though we're right next to this very busy road. Right. And the streetlights end like before our house. We're at a dead end. And I'm like, oh shit. So this dude comes walking across like he means business. He gets out of a white Chevy pickup truck. And he comes walking up to us, and he's like, hey. He's like, he asks us where some address is. And we're like, well, that's actually our next door neighbor, but they're on a different road, so that's their address over there. And he's like, well, I'm looking for the da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, what did he just say? And Barf understands. He's like, the what? The dirty what? He's like, the da-da-da-da. And we're like, what the hell is he talking about? And he goes, I'm talking about the dirty 30. And we're like, the dirty 30? He's like, it's a Mexican hoe house. And I'm like, oh. Ooh. So our next door neighbors, like I said, work for a construction company. They're a bunch of Latino. And so literally Barf goes, those guys are a bunch of Latinos. And I'm like, Latinos? Where the fuck did you pull that shit from? He was like, how do I get there? We kind of told him we got to go around the block kind of thing. He's like, I can't go right here. We're like, this is our front yard. You can't drive across that and go through that fence right there. He's like, oh, okay. And he's walking away. I said, sir, what did you say it was called? He said, the dirty 30. And I was like, why is that? Because it wasn't their address. He's like, you can get anything you want for $30. Oh. I was like, oh. No. I know that was a long story, but the dirty 30.
I wish that the people listening could see my scrunchy face.
Yeah. But it makes me think, the whole way down, I live 4.5 hours away from Raleigh, North Carolina, where we record. I was trying to think of 30, and I literally Googled 30. Like, what else is 30? Don't trust anybody over 30. That was what the hippies said in the 60s. You don't trust anybody over 30. Now they're all 65.
Yeah.
But, like, did you ever do a 30-mile day?
I did a 29-plus mile day.
Yeah, I did a 26.
Close enough.
So I couldn't figure anything out about 30. So what's something we could talk about that's dirty?
Oh.
That's a lot easier for us.
It's way easier. When I hear the word dirty in a story comes to mind, I can always think of when I was a camp counselor and I had this tent full. I think it was a big tent. It was like a big family style camping tent that I think there were probably 4 or 5 12 to 14-year-old boys in.
I mean,
And I could hear them, and like it was time to go to bed, and I could still hear them. And you know, like it's hard to get campers to go to bed when you're in a cabin or a bunk house or something like that.
Right.
It's really hard to get kids to go to bed when they're all in a tent together, because there's like an added element of closeness and novelty that it's just hard for them to wind down. And but I can keep hearing them talking and talking and talking. So finally I like get up and I walk over to them and I'm like, guys, what is going on? Like, why are you still awake? And the littlest one in the whole tent, and I don't know where he came up with this, but he was just like, I'm afraid to go to sleep because I'm afraid that Justin's going to give me a dirty Sanchez. And it's this like 11-year-old boy.
that was not what I thought.
And it was just one of those where I'm like, well, that is not what I thought you were going to say.
Oh, I wish I had Google Glasses right now to record that.
All right. Well, Justin, do not give him a dirty Sanchez. Pretty please with sugar on top, and go to sleep.
It's like, you know, like with you know, sometimes with like trouble kids in the woods, you take away their shoes and that kind of thing. It's like, Justin, put on fucking gloves.
Yeah.
Put on the biggest gloves you have.
Not fucking around here. He wakes up in the morning with a poop stash. You're going to be in so much trouble.
All right, so I put a question out on Twitter and Facebook today, and no one responded.
Oh, good.
It was just a couple hours ago, so I wasn't expecting much. Well, I put something out there as far as people calling in. Nobody called in, but maybe us talking about this right now will get the conversation started and we can hear some stories. But I asked people where the strangest / the most disgusting / scariest place you ever took a tick off of your body while you were hiking the AT. And I have a story about ticks after this.
All right.
Actually, a lesson to be learned. Something I learned the other day. Do you, please, do you have a tick story? You want me to go first?
Did I tell the story?
You had one fucking holstered.
Did I tell the story about removing my camper's tick?
Ooh.
All right, so I had a different camper story. It was actually one of the first female campers I ever had, and like, the rules are so strict around counselor and camper, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do.
Right, of course.
And in backcountry camp, the lines get blurred, but for every time that there's a blurred line, there's like a contingency for it. You know, sometimes you get into a situation where it's like, you know, if a kid gets injured, it's like, well, you kind of, you know, okay, like let's say they
go crotch first onto a stick.
Let's say right,
yeah.
like let's say a kid says, I got a spider bite on my ball, and it's like,
right.
I have to see your ball. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
You got to show me your wiener.
Yeah.
I'm really
There's
like,
gotta be somebody else here though.
Yeah. But
don't worry, 2 people will be looking at your dick.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Pick a friend, whoever you want. They'll be here too.
Not her.
So I had a female camper who comes up to me and she's very quiet and she's like, I have to ask you a question. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I think I have a tick.
I think Journey has a tick.
Journey might have a tick. It's possible. She's like, I have a question. I'm like, what's that? And she goes, I think I have a tick. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, it's in an uncomfortable place.
The back of a Volkswagen?
I'm like, a very uncomfortable place. So I said, all right, well, Jesus Christ, Journey.
Fucking full orchestra.
So I'm like, what do you want me to do about that? Like, do you need my help? Do you need a set of tweezers? Like,
assistance.
What's going on? And she's like, I think it's on my girl parts. And I'm like, oh, fuck
Aisha.
me. Like, now what? So luckily there was one other female camper. And I'm like, all right, this is what's going to happen. So the three of us are going to go into a tent. And I'm going to see what's going on here, I guess. And like the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm like, I am not a mother. I am not prepared for this.
I don't even like kids.
I do not want to look into the business end of a 12-year-old girl. Like, this is so not where I want to be right now. I can't even tell you. So I grab a set of tweezers. We go into this tent.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So she, like, shows me what she's talking about, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, it's one of those things where you're like, how do you specifically search for a tick? And it's like you're almost trying to put a camera filter on it to, like, fuzz everything out. You're, like, trying to be like, I am
looking
only...
at it like you're a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I'm like, I am only looking at this tick kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I, like, it was almost like, I'm going to do this fast. I'm going to look at as little as possible, and I'm going to get in and out, and that's what I'm going to do. And so... Has he been fed yet? Okay. My dog is tap dancing. So I take the tweezers, and I grab this tick, and I give it a tug, and she goes, ow! And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna hurt a little. I'm really sorry. I'm gonna try and do it fast. So I grab it again and I pull, ow! And I'm like, well, you know, I'm gonna try one more time and see what I get. And you know, at that point you're like, you feel like you have to get in there a little more. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this.
Choke up on the bat a little bit.
Right.
There,
I'm like, I do not want to do this. And so I get in there a little bit more. And it's not like this is internal. I mean, it's definitely external, but it was just like, this is not where I want to be even a little bit. And I get in just a little bit closer so I can make sure I'm seeing what I'm supposed to be looking at. And I say, is there any chance that this is a mole? And she's just like, oh, yeah. And she starts giggling and she's like, never mind. Sorry, my bad. And like pulls pants up, runs out of the tent. Ha 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 ha. I don't think she was like trying to play a joke on me. I think she really thought it was a tick. But I'm like sitting there like hugging my knees and rocking like, I want to go home. I want to go home. I don't want to do this anymore. That was disgusting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember that my big tick removal was, I've told the story before about, I went out I remember it was like some weird place in like New Jersey or something where there's like a fucking German restaurant in the middle of fucking nowhere. And it's like one of those like, hey, I'm walking through fields in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or something like that. And there's like this random German restaurant down the street, like complete with like fucking people playing polka fucking music and German, you know, bratwurst shit, you know, crazy European vacation kind of style. And we went down there and ate. And then, of course, my body wasn't used to anything that I ate. So it was like 2:00 in the morning, like, got to get out of there. And it's coming out of water. And so I'm like, shit. And so it was like no time for shoes, no time for headlamp. It was like borderline Puss in Boots style, like spray, like, next to it. And then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, man, ankles kind of feel weird. And it was like, my ankles feel hot. Oh, I'm itching. And I had like basically dropped a deuce in poison ivy, like, like, calf high poison ivy.
Oh, no.
So I remember like having to like take it kind of.
At least you didn't get it on your butt.
No. It was just like my ankles, like just up to, like mid calf, like sock style. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I remember we had to kind of take it easy for like 2 days where I'm like, dude, it was cut. And like, the thing is like growing up, I was never allergic to poison ivy.
That's
and
famous,
it wasn't
famous last words.
And then when I got onto the AT, like, I mean, as my mom always said, she's like, we literally caught you rolling around playing with the dogs one time when you were a kid in a patch of poison ivy. You didn't get a drop. And it's like, then when I was 21, 22, boom, got it. So, but I remember like that just being like, it sucked so much. And then I remember like maybe on like night 1 or night 2 of having to take it easy, having that feeling you just get when there's a tick on your body.
Yeah.
But this one was literally on my taint. And it was like, I mean, it was like he was there for a little while. So I was probably like focusing on my ankle, shit. Right. And then it was like, oh God. So I'm literally sitting there in my tent, like spread eagle, like, here we go. The story I have about ticks. Have you ever heard of beef tick disease?
No.
And we'll have to look it up here to see what the exact thing is. But my wife, when we went down to Austin, Texas in 2007 to ride in the Lance Armstrong Live Strong ride. And we went down there, and, Texas is famous for their barbecue. Of course, their barbecue is beef, whereas ours is pork, the way God intended. Right. And so we went to the Salt Lick, which is a really well-known place. And my wife does not eat beef. Like, she just never does. When I met her, she was a vegetarian. Then she kind of went chicken, and now she'll do bacon. That's about as far as it goes. And so we ate there, and then we went back to her grandfather's house. And where we were staying in this room we had twin beds. So like I was on one side and she was like 8 feet away. And so the next morning we wake up and I look over lovingly at my bride, and I'm like, she looks kind of funny. And I literally got up and like walked over and looked at her, and she was covered in welts. Oh, no. Like from head to toe covered in welts. And I'm like, you got to get up now. And like she was like swollen and puffy. I'm like, you've got to get up now. I think we need to take you to the hospital. Like, don't have a doctor here in Austin. Mm-hmm. So it's like, fuck. So we go to the hospital in the emergency room, like on a Friday or something like that. It just sucked ass. And I was like, all right, well, this is the way this is going down. And so we were there for a while. And basically what they do whenever you have something like that is they just give you like, booster shots of Benadryl kind of thing. And so luckily I think we had the next day off, and then we rode the next day or something like that. So we had a little bit of time in between, and she was able to do her ride, and I didn't mind. But so then when we were back here in Raleigh for a while, we went to her parents' house, and her uncle had mailed Salt Lick barbecue up to, like, you can do like overnight kind of thing. Right. It's like, it's that one of those places where people get it from all around the country and around the world. And so it was like, oh, cool, we get to have some of that, Sure thing. She only had a little bit. She was like covered in these welts the next day. Way. And we didn't put it together at the time. Just didn't really think about it. It was really mild that time because she just only had a few bites. They had a pork thing that she had more of, I guess. And so I met this guy the other day, and he was going to a barbecue. He was coming by actually to say hey to my mom and see if she wanted to go to this barbecue with he and his family that was across the street from our neighbor. But since I was in town, she's like, no, I'm going to hang out, here, And he said, I don't even know if they're going to have anything I can eat there. I'm like, oh, it's like, are you vegetarian? He's like, no, they're having barbecue, but I can't eat too much pork and I can't eat too much beef. And I was like, really? And I was like, why is that? And he said, I was like, because my wife is allergic to beef. He's like, I bet she's not. I was like, what do you mean? And he said, I bet she has the same thing I do. Like, what's that? And he said, it's called the beef tick disease. And so I think it's called the Lone Star tick. Mm-hmm. It has a certain enzyme or something. We can look it up and if we want to.
I do know about this.
Yeah. And so if you have high levels of whatever the hell protein is in beef and sometimes in pork, he said, I can have bacon, but I can't have a pork chop. And so it's basically the same exact thing. All right, boss. Oh, two things, podcast related. One, I was kind of being a narcissist and checking out our page one day and looking to see like what's related to us. And I first wrote this down about 2 months ago, like what's related to us. But I just checked the other day, and finally, I mean, it's taken, 16 months of us doing this, 30 full, whatever the fucks. We're finally now related to The Trail Show, Dirtbag Diaries, and like some other trail stuff.
Okay.
I can't remember now.
And that butterfly guy.
Bonsai?
Yeah.
No. He's still up there, that fucker. But the 2 months ago, basically all we were related to were handgun podcasts. Do you know how many gun podcasts there are? Like, I don't give a shit, but I have no idea. Oh, that was my alarm for 8:30 this morning that never went off.
It's 8:30.
8:30 p.m., yeah. we're like 10 minutes in. But yeah, 2 months ago, we were related to Nothing But Handgun podcasts and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the new host of Cosmos. So the long way of me going about saying who I think you sound like, harken back about 55 minutes ago when we were talking about the not telling someone they don't look like someone unless that person's known for looking good.
Right.
The person I'm about to say that I think your voice reminds me of, doesn't sound exactly like.
Okay.
You'll probably be offended.
All right.
Sarah Vowell.
I don't know who that is.
Sarah Vowell is an authoress who has written many books. And
is authoress a word?
No, I'm just drunk.
Okay.
And she's been on the Daily Show like 10 million times. Okay, I'll look it up.
Wait, ain't nobody got time. We'll do it later.
Okay, we'll do it later. Okay, but look her up.
Okay.
Yeah. It's. I've always thought you have a very interesting voice.
It's not like anybody else's.
Right. It's kind of like Sarah Vowell's.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
What's yours?
Sarah Vowell.
That's who they said you sounded
That's
like?
who I said I thought you sound like.
Well, who'd they say you sounded like?
Nobody has commented on what I sound like.
Nobody liked you enough.
Nobody.
To...
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Again, going back to the podcast cast, more from you, less from me. Which has not happened tonight.
I'm adorable.
This time we'll be right back.
I mean...
Let me just...
Oh, I have a good story.
Oh, okay.
So, one of the days that it was real fucking cold,
yeah.
I work outside usually half the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a circulatory condition, like I have mentioned before. So my hands and feet get really, really cold. And so it was fucking freezing outside. And it was one of those, like, I'm going to have a long day working outside. I need to be prepared for this, like seriously prepared, because I'm going to be outside all day. So right. I go to leave the house in the morning, and I almost never do this, but I grab 2 packets of Toasty Toes, and so I put, like, the little disposable foot heaters. I put one on the bottom of my sock and one on the top of my sock, so I've got, like, double heat.
Oh, wow,
and I'm like, just because that's the only, really, if I just had one, it wouldn't make a difference. And even this way, my feet will still be cold, but at least they won't, like, get frostbite. So I have Toasty Toes on my socks, and I work all day, and I get home. I pull the Toasty Toes off my socks, and they're actually still warm, like still as warm as they would have been any other time of day.
Right.
And I throw them on my bed because I'm, like, peeling them off my socks so I don't throw my socks in the laundry and then accidentally wash 4 Toasty Toes. So I peel them off my socks and I stick them on my bed. And so I'm like taking off all these layers of clothes until I'm just down to, like, silk weight long underwear,
right.
Like the kind you can see through. And
keep talking.
Don't stop now. And I go to sit down on my bed, and
yeah, you do.
A Toasty Toe like literally adheres to my butthole. Like, and it's warm, right?
Toasty hole.
I sat down and like my butt was cold because I had been outside all day. And so it was just this like slow realization of like, I wish that somebody could have seen my face when this happened, because as far as I was concerned, I had sat down on the bed and diarrheaed all over the bed. That's what it felt like.
Did you think that might have happened?
I totally thought that I had diarrheaed on the bed. And so like, it was one of those, like, I was afraid to look. Like, I just sort of was like, oh my God. And I stood up and I turned around and then I just laughed my ass off because here's this sticky pile of Toasty Toes on the foot of my bed. And I was like, I am so glad I did not shit the bed. Speaking of fucking cold.
Yeah.
How was SNOMG?
Up there? Let's see. I feel... Have we talked since there was someone evacuated from the Smokies? I think that was a couple months ago.
I feel like there was
I feel like
somebody.
it happens so often now that I just don't give a shit anymore.
I feel like hiker season so far has totally snuck up on me. Like, I looked at the calendar the other day and I was like, what the shit? We are like 3/4 of the way through February? When did that happen? Like, there are people on the trail right now, and this weather could not yo-yo more if it tried. And all I could think is, like, I think this is the first year, every year since I hiked, every time there is a rainstorm, I'm like, oh, bless those people on the trail right now. And this is the first year that, like, they haven't been in the forefront of my brain, just because I don't know what kind of drugs 2014 is on, but I feel like...
Polar vortex.
Holy shit, man. It's something crazy going on.
You know, like, I was thinking about it the other day. Like, I feel like in 1998 when I hiked, the El Nino was just popping off. Like, people were just learning. Now it seems like El Nino and La Nina is every year kind of... like, you know what the fuck's going on with it. People
hearken to it.
Yes. Yeah. And now, polar vortex.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
Oh, I do...
I can tell you, here's one I tell people. WX South. I think it's at WX South on Twitter. That dude has been nailing shit around here. Like, in the mountains, he predicted both big snows we've had.
Yeah.
That, like, and here's the crazy thing. They've been big snows for us because I live on the North Carolina side of the Great Smokies. Like, I mean, I'm minutes away from Cherokee and the Smokies and that kind of thing. And so a lot of time, if the snow comes from, like, our friends in Michigan and things like that, when it comes down that way, we don't get it. It stops on the other side. Gatlinburg gets shit on.
Right.
What we've had this year has been the polar vortex, craziness coming down.
Yeah.
We've been having, like what would be hurricane quality rains coming up there and just dumping shit.
Yeah.
So I couldn't imagine somebody on the trail right now. Like, it would just, like, I mean, it on... Wednesday, this guy at WX South, whatever, WX stands for weather. Like, it took me a little while to understand that.
Uh-huh.
In some geek language, WX is weather.
Okay.
And so WX South, this dude just, like, says, oh, and he talks crazy, but, like, you also have to understand all these different acronyms for weather patterns and stuff like that.
That's how you know he's serious.
Yeah. And just kind of is like, what's this person talking about? But he's like, he's predicted both of them, whereas the local weather is like, nah, it might be like an inch or something like that. And we got like fucking 8 inches.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I'm sure everybody up north is laughing at me right now, but we don't do that here.
No, we don't. So
even in the Smokies, we don't do that shit.
I briefly tweeted this story, but I have to tell it again. I bold-faced lied to a woman... behind me in line at Walmart. So I'm at Walmart.
I'm ready.
I'm checking out, and I have a sheetrock bucket, and
like you do,
and a fair amount of non-perishable food. So I put all of that on the little belt. It gets to the cashier. And she looks at it and she says, "Are you painting?" And I said, "No, actually, I'm really just I'm restocking my non-perishable foods. Before this big storm was coming, I was getting all my emergency stuff ready, and I realized that, for one reason or another, I've kind of chipped away at all of the emergency food that I keep around, which I was in North Carolina for Hurricane Fran, where we lost power for 10 days. Right. So it's like ingrained in me that like you have your shit ready.
Right.
And so I had, probably 3 or 4 days worth of non-perishable foods for me and my fiance. And I figured, I'm going to put all this in a sheetrock bucket and like just put it in a closet somewhere so that it's ready.
Right.
Put it with all the empty containers that are expandable that I fill up with water and that kind of stuff. And that way it's all in one spot. So bless this girl's heart. She, are you painting? And I kind of said, no, I'm just restocking my non-perishables after this winter storm. And the woman behind me in line, she just scoffs and she says, you Southerners, I am from Illinois. That snow was ridiculous, and I don't know why the world stops when that happens. And if all of you are going to complain so much about how bad the roads get, then learn how to drive and buy some equipment. And all of the arguments run through my head of, number one, how are people supposed to learn how to drive when it snows maybe once a year, every other year?
Yeah.
And that's a horrible time for people to learn how to drive.
And we pretty much have like 2 or 3 snowplows.
And number 2, why would the state buy millions of dollars worth of machinery when, we had a huge snowstorm for us, but enough that you would need plows. If it were anywhere else, they would just plow the roads.
Right.
But in 4 days, it's gone. Like, you can't spend millions of dollars on machinery. But I just couldn't even begin to start on that argument. So, what did I say?
Oh, do I get choices?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me like A, B, and C.
Oh, well, no, just guess. Just guess what I said.
Have a good day, ma'am?
No.
You weren't a good Southern girl.
No.
Did you say what you just said, basically in a matter-of-fact way? Or did you say, fuck you?
I gave a real short version.
Okay.
And then an uncomfortable pause. And then I panicked, and I said, and I'm from Canada, so I know a thing or two about winter weather. I was born and raised in Canada. Like, God, I'm glad she didn't ask me where, because I would have just been like, I'm not really from Canada.
You had me convinced for a second there.
No.
I was like, wait, no, you're lying now. Like,
No.
Oh, that's right. This was a lie.
Yeah. So I told her I was from Canada.
That's awesome.
And I said, I was raised driving in snow, and you couldn't get me on these roads. Not because North Carolinians are bad drivers, but because they're ill-equipped to handle the road conditions and blah, blah, blah. And the whole time I'm just thinking in my head, like, please don't ask me a question about Canada. Please don't ask me a question about Canada. And she was just like, I'm from Illinois. Do you know how much snow we've gotten in Illinois? I'm like, do you know how much snow they got in Toronto so far? And then I was just like, I gotta go. I gotta go
because I have no fucking idea.
I have to go before I dig myself into a deeper hole. Do you have a package?
Yeah, I do.
It looks like you have a package from here.
I sure do. I have a. It's actually a box.
Oh, okay.
You call it a package. I call it a box.
First, you open the box.
So first off, you understand how hilarious it is for my small town mail person to hand me a box that says Pox Holiday on it when they know me by my first name?
I'm glad that they like it.
They stopped asking after the 3rd time, and that's how they actually learned.
You should tell them that's your porn star name.
Oh yeah.
It's like when I went to Catholic.
That was the name of my first dog and the road I grew up on.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Right?
My dog Pox and I grew up on Holiday Avenue.
It makes total sense.
Holiday Boulevard.
When I was a kid, I went to Catholic school, and they didn't have school buses, so you had to carpool, and that was just your only way to get there. And, my mom set up this fucking carpool where it was like...
God damn it.
I was with... I was the oldest, and then there were... I think like 3 boys. Huh? No, you'd see headlights. But there were like 3 boys that were 2 years younger than me, and we all had to ride together, and I fucking hated it. But that was at a point in my life where my mom had converted the laundry room, like, so it was a laundry room, but they converted it so that she could also use it as a dark room.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like just like playing around with photography then. It was before digital cameras, so
Right.
it was just something she enjoyed. But there's a light, or there's not a light, there's a window in the laundry room, so you have to block that out so that there's not any light coming in.
Right.
So I think she bought like white poster board and taped it up in the window so that it wouldn't let any light out and it wouldn't look weird from the street. But at one point, one of the ladies that was one of the drivers for the carpool, like, pulls up into the driveway, and I go to get out, and I'm like, thanks for the ride, and she says, I've been meaning to ask you, what's with the room up there that's blocked out with the white? And I looked at it, and I said, and I, like, got a real serious look on my face, and I was like a little shit. I was little, like, I mean, like, I was old enough, but, like, and I said, that's where Mom makes her secret movies. And I went inside, and, like, I didn't say anything else, but that's where Mom makes her secret movies. And, like, way later, like, I said...
I just hope to God the camera's picking up not only the dogs barking like crazy, but the guy saying, shut up! And guess what? If there are 2 dogs that are out of control and they're not your dogs, you yelling at them really, really, really quiets them down.
Not gonna help. Not gonna help at all.
It can only help if you yell at your neighbor's dogs. Real quick, I forgot what we were talking about.
Package.
Yeah.
Oh, your mailman.
Oh yeah,
Porn
yeah.
star name.
Yeah,
There you
porn
go.
star name.
Sorry.
That's how you do a podcast,
That's
folks.
it. That's how we get back
We'll
back
be right
to
back.
business.
No. So we have, it's almost exactly a year. God, I can only hope this is getting picked up. Like, I feel like we should mic up outside. We should just put.
That'd be really good.
We should put a 3rd mic outside.
You could just put it up against the window, really.
Shut up!
You gotta love the bloodhound next door.
I didn't even hear a fire truck go by.
Yeah, no. Sometimes they just do it.
Anyway, so about 11 months ago, we received our first package from a young lady named Skylar Moon. You may know her as Skylar Moon on Twitter.
At
Skylar
Moon.
And so she asked for the address again. I had moved. That's right, I had moved. I remember now. And so I have the box here in my hands. And here's the crazy thing: she sent it to me right around the time that we had our Snowmageddon, and so I couldn't make it to the post office for like probably 4 or 5 days, like, because like on the weekend my post office is a ghost town.
Right.
So basically, by the time the snow cleared, I couldn't get to the package. So I got to it a couple of days back, and she said, "Look, you probably don't want to open this past Saturday." And I said, "Well, that's when we're recording, because it had been 2 weeks almost at that point. So you probably don't want to do it past Saturday." And so I was like, "All right." So I came home that night and I had the box, and she told me that she wished we got them earlier because this is for Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. And today's what, the 22nd?
Yeah.
And so I was like, she said she put something in there for the fiance and my wife.
Aww.
So I came home that night. I handed the box to my wife and my Benchmade pocket knife. And I said, "Look, I'm going to hand this to you. I'm going to go in the other room, get a drink. And I want you to open up this box and take out something. I think there's something in here for you. And then I want you to put a piece of tape back on it." And I handed her the bag that I was going to come down here with and put my clothes in. And I said, "And put it into that bag, into my little luggage bag." And then I gave her another box from something else that had been sent to us. It was an empty box. And I said, "Now, if you're done with whatever it is, put it in that box because I don't want to see it. Because I always like a surprise when we open up something from Skylar Moon.
Right.
So my wife knows what's in here, but I don't. So I'm going to hand the box to you. And the only reason I told that story is because when I told the story the exact same way to my wife, or when I had her do it, she was like, please tell me you're going to put that on the podcast because that's fucking crazy. I was like, yeah, sure. So.
That you just didn't open again?
Yeah, that I didn't open it up and be like, oh, here's yours. Like I wanted it to be a surprise for us.
You know, I really hate surprises.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in a, I wish you would have done this a different way, but I mean that in like I was always the kid that like spied all my Christmas presents beforehand and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if I had been in your situation, there's no way that I would have had an open box in my possession.
I just had some honest. I honestly, just so you know, my undies were on top of that. Just so you know, my undies, socks,
Clean or dirty?
undershirt. Oh, clean.
Clean,
No, I
clean.
took it straight from the laundry, put them on top of there.
There are so many bubble wrapped goodies.
Oh wow!
Oh my god, it's a polar bear cookie and it is darling. It's so happy looking.
I do know that my wife got a box.
This is gorgeous.
Oh wow!
It's a cupcake cookie.
Oh wow!
But it's a cookie
It's like the size of your hand.
really looks like a cupcake.
Oh wow! That's huge.
Oh, Skylar, you've outdone yourself. Ooh. For Puss to give to the fiance.
That my wife mentioned a box. So that's all I knew is that she got a box of something. I was like, I don't even want to know that. Wow.
They look, oh my god, they're cookies that look like chocolate covered strawberries.
Oh, wow.
She's brilliant.
Yes.
Skylar Moonbeam.
Did you ever see the picture of her in Baltimore, Jack? Out front of the ATC?
No, I don't
She took it
know if I did.
last spring.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, wow.
But wait.
There's
There's more. I'm sorry that I'm...
Oh, my God. That's
I'm
another, like,
I'm opening this,
palm-sized cookie.
Holy shit. That is awesome.
Oh, my gosh.
It looks like a stamp with a heart on it. It's
You know
so
what she's
cute.
doing. She's increasing the arsenic through each one.
That's what she's doing. Oh my god, it's poison. She's poisoning us, is what's happening.
We can only hope.
I'm really sorry that I'm opening this right in front of the mic, so it's very rustly.
Kurt Russell.
These are gorgeous. Did you just say Kurt Russell?
What was he, Captain Ron?
I loved that movie when I was a kid. I was too young to like
Kurt
that
Russell
movie.
was kind of the poor man's Swayze.
See, I was thinking he was sort of the poor man's, like...
Mike Douglas.
No.
Michael Douglas.
Pauly Shore.
Wow.
He always seemed like a goof to me.
Well, okay. Well, you have yours. I have my Russell.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
I think you're thinking of someone else. Oh man.
Do you want a cookie?
No.
Hi, this message is for Pox and Puss. I really enjoy your podcast. My name's Sarah, and I'm going to be hiking the trail starting in April this year. Anyhow, I went over to your Etsy shop, and I'd really love to get one of your Dino Chase t-shirts, but this is one of the few instances where it sucks to be a Canadian because you guys don't ship out of the U.S. So I'm just calling to see if there's a possibility that you'll be able to open up t-shirts for the international Appalachian Trail hikers. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks so much for coming to the Etsy site. We have had some special orders, and I believe at one point I had like a little asterisk in the product descriptions that said if you are an international, if you want to have an international order, just to send me a private message at our Pox and Puss Etsy site address, and I would be happy to work out the logistics of that. We've actually also had a couple of people that have had special requests. A baby onesie. Mm-hmm. We had a gentleman that we had brought up what kinds of t-shirts that we could print on, whether it was,
right.
you know, the I think I called it a crop walk t-shirt that was just like the standard Hanes.
Your 5K.
Hanes beefy tee that you'd get whenever you do a 5K for charity, versus fancy pants, tri-blend, super soft, cotton, poly, deep V in, whatever fucking color you want. And the response that we got to that was that the men just wanted standard cotton shirt. But I just got a message from somebody the other day that said, I really, really want a nice fitted men's t-shirt that has a V-neck. I will pay extra for it. What do you want me to do? And so he sent me a link to the shirt he wanted on Amazon. I ordered it myself. I tacked that onto his bill and screen printed it and I'm sending it out to him this week.
That's cool.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I have absolutely no problem. I do the t-shirts and I do the shipping. I've got no problem sending you a shirt in
a pretty fancy
Canada.
sticker on each bag, too.
Shit, yeah, man.
On each package,
yeah.
if you know what I mean. Box.
Yeah. Hey, Fox and Puss. This is JB from Atlanta. I'm getting ready for my 2014 Thru-Hike. Planning on starting on March 8th. So, getting the jitters for that. The other day, I was looking around my neighborhood, and I saw a guy walking up a hill next to my house, and he had on a full Gregory backpack. He was wearing all of his hiker gear, and I was like, hey, maybe this is a guy I could talk to about a thru-hike. This looks like he's getting ready for it, too. And then I noticed the Vibram 5 fingers he was wearing, and I talked myself out of it immediately. He may be the best hiker I've ever seen, but something tells me that I don't want to talk to that guy simply because of his shoes. I wanted to know if you guys had any other prejudices when you saw someone hiking on the trail, if you saw them in 5 fingers or some brand of clothing where you were automatically like, ugh, we probably won't get along with that guy or that girl. Other than that, I hope I didn't come off like too big of a douchebag, and I hope you guys are getting ready for thru-hiking season as much as I am. All right, can't wait till the next show, guys. Bye.
Easiest answer, Utilikilt.
Hey, Fox and Puss.
No,
this
fuck.
is JB from Atlanta. I'm getting ready for my...
Every time.
Utilikilt, man. I know people love it. I know Badger, yeah, he's a fan of the kilt, but you have that initial, here we go.
We've said every year that there's probably at least one person, if not more, that do the entire trail with gear that they bought at Dick's or Walmart or ordered every scrap of it from Camp Moore or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean success or failure, but I love talking to people that want to learn. I hate talking to people that not necessarily want to teach, but that want to impress what they know upon me.
Right.
And I have to work very hard to not be one of those people. And generally speaking, the people that want to impress their things upon me make me want to do the same to them, because I want to tell them that they're wrong. And so it's never a graceful conversation. So I try to avoid that.
It becomes that pissing contest kind of feel. You're like, oh, God, why are we doing this?
Right. And there's always exceptions to the rule. I've talked a couple of times about Maui Bob. I met him in Virginia, and he was an older dude from Hawaii that was doing the whole trail in a pair of, like, Keen Newports.
Oh, yeah.
And at first I was like... I definitely judged him before I met him, because it was one of those, like... God, another fucking guy trying to do the whole trail in fucking sandals. Like,
some kind of,
I'm over it. Because really at that point it's like, what else are you trying to prove? Like, you're doing it, man. You're hiking the trail. Like, nobody gives a shit what you're wearing on your feet.
Right.
And it's not like at the end, Keen's going to give you a lifetime supply of Newports. Like, maybe if you had done that 10 years ago, it would have been something. But now nobody cares anymore. And so it's just sort of one of those things. And then I met him, and he was just like, he explained why he was wearing them. It was because, like, he hadn't worn shoes in like 5 years, so this was really a step up for him. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, you put me in my place. I've obviously talked about the Phoenix, who did the trail in the pair of Crocs that he brought as his camp shoes. As much as I'd like to say that especially on distance hikes, there are pieces of gear that I tend to judge before I really have a right to. The ones that come to mind are probably
the zip stove. I'm just throwing one out there.
well, there are some stoves that I automatically am like, oh God, one of those.
I was just pulling that one.
But, you know, like 5 Fingers or gigantic Arc'teryx backpacks or, you know, the ones that weigh 11 pounds empty, where I'm just like, it just seems like you're just bragging. Like, there's no way that you have enough stuff that necessitates that. It seems like it's not a good pack for this hike. Please, Arc'teryx, big, huge backpack owners that have done large hikes, please don't write in and curse my name. But you have to admit that it's not very well suited for the job. If it works for you, that's wonderful. But generally speaking, it's not well suited for the job. Much like 5 Fingers are. If you're doing it to prove a point, that's one thing. It's not a good point that you're proving, but if that's really what you want to do, you are making what is already a difficult goal much harder.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, like, I get my little grain of sand between my cheeks about that, where I'm just like, yeah, I would probably have avoided that guy too. And then I probably would have eaten my words when he was actually a cool dude, but I don't blame you. So.
And no, you weren't a douchebag.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Currently, I know this is our first episode of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite call so far?
Yeah.
We've only had 2. But.
Yeah.
Puss, this is Christo from ChristoHikes.com. Hey, I'm on another road trip. Long hours of driving on the West Coast. More listening to you guys. Trying to get your old catalog down. Hope you had a great holidays. I promise I'm going to get on to ordering one of your shirts here real soon, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Keep it up.
Oh, right on.
Thank you so much.
That's very nice. Maybe he just slipped into number 1 right there. Just blowing a little smoke there.
He was just giving us an attaboy.
Well, yeah. Hell yeah. Well, that's awesome. 828-394-4526 if you ever want to give us a call. Hey, give us a call and tell us where you pulled a tick. And if you've ever been, I feel like I went straight into DJ voice. Call us and tell us where you pulled out a tick. And if you've ever been Puss, backcountry gynecologist, give us a call. Here comes Whitesnake. Well, episode 30, I think we talked about the Appalachian Trail at some point.
Oh, I hope so.
It snuck in there.
Talked about ticks.
We talked about ticks.
Let's talk about ticks, man.
Hey, you know what? Something I'm going to bring up right now we hadn't talked about in a while?
Tell me.
Flex Seal. I genuinely thought you were very concerned about Flex Seal because you kind of furrowed your brow, but then, pow!
I'm a champion.
It's in my lap. Let's see. Yeah, Flex Seal.
Groundbreaking.
Shout out to the old folks. Oh, the clear one?
Yeah, fucking Flex Seal clear.
Yeah.
Tell me that you don't just want to